The Met's exhibition Superfine, Tailoring Black Style, guest curated by Monica L. Miller, is a visualization and extension of her groundbreaking 2009 book, Slaves to Fashion, and explores the origins and multiple meanings of Black dandyism in the Atlantic diaspora. What makes it possible to transform Monica's book into an exhibition is the Costume Institute's collection of high-style menswear, which serves as a foundation for imagining a sartorial history of Black dandyism. Superfine marks our first exhibition devoted to menswear in more than 20 years, and the Costume Institute were always striving to make fashion a gateway to access and inclusivity by engaging with topics that reflect the zeitgeist. Today, menswear is experiencing a vibrant resurgence, led by a group of extraordinary Black designers that we feature in the exhibition. These designers are constantly challenging the normative conventions of menswear by taking classic forms, breaking them down, and remixing them in entirely new ways. I especially want to acknowledge the late Virgil Abloh, who was acutely aware of the figure of the dandy. His definition reads, an 18th century label for the obsessive male dresser, later defined by Charles Baudelaire as a male aspiration to becoming uninterruptedly sublime. And I can't think of a better phrase, not only to describe the Black dandy, but also what Monica has achieved with Superfine, a story in which fashion, masculinity, and Blackness converge. For Virgil, the Black dandy was part of what he called the Black imagination, a way of manifesting Black dreams in real life. In this exhibition, Monica explores how those dreams are realized and made tangible, and in so doing, highlights the liberatory quality of the imagination itself. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Monica L. Miller, guest curator of Superfine.
I'm Monica Miller, and I'm thrilled to be the guest curator behind this year's Superfine Tailoring Black Style exhibition, alongside Andrew Bolton and the Costume Institute's curatorial team. Superfine, the Spring Costume Institute exhibition, presents a rich history of Black style through the lens of dandyism, from the 18th century to today. The exhibition shows how fashion, style, and dress have been powerful tools used by Black people in the Atlantic diaspora for both resistance and self-expression. Whether a dandy is subtle or spectacular, we recognize and respect the deliberateness of the dress, the self-conscious display, the reach for tailored perfection, and the sometimes subversive self-expression. With 12 thematic sections featuring over 230 garments, prints, photographs, films, and decorative arts, the exhibition explores dandyism over time as a dynamic interplay, shifting between being dandified and adopting dandyism as a mode of self-fashioning, connected to significant moments in historical Black life. I can't wait to walk you through some of the highlights. The exhibition begins with the ownership section, where we explore dandyism's relationship to currency and conspicuous consumption through gold, silver, and garments adorned with these precious metals. It shows how clothing can dehumanize, but also grant agency and self-possession. In the 18th century Atlantic world, a culture of consumption, fueled by slavery, colonialism, and imperialism, used fashion to signal wealth and status. Black dandyism originates in the intersection of African and European modes of dress and adornment. Enslaved Africans were sometimes dandified as luxury servants, their ornate dress marking objectification. Dandyism became a way for Black people to subvert this by claiming and visualizing their own self-worth. This purple velvet livery coat and waistcoat, trimmed with gold lace, is from Maryland in the 1840s. Like most livery, it is deliberately antiquated in style. This livery coat of buff wool was worn by a young enslaved man from Louisiana in the mid-19th century. It also mixes historical styles. Its large silver metal buttons, which look like coins, are stamped with the emblem of the owner of the Laurel Hill plantation. Let's look at the reverse side of ownership to see how contemporary Black designers respond. These designers incorporate materials such as silver, gold, metallic lace, cowrie shells, and even dollar bills, different types of currencies, to transform symbols of historic dehumanization and valuation into powerful statements of self-expression and agency. Here we see Grace Wells Bonner's Velvet Ensemble, which features silver lace embellishments and, more significantly, cowrie shells. Cowrie shells were once used as currency along the west coast of Africa and have been a symbol of pride and dignity for people in the African diaspora ever since. The thematic sections that follow dive into different aspects of this story: craftsmanship, resistance, freedom, and cultural celebration, showing how fashion has long been a way to navigate, challenge, and celebrate Black histories and identities. The exhibition's design, conceived by Turquoise Dyson, features her signature hypershapes, monumental architectural forms that explore themes of Black life such as reflection, theatricality, and transcendence. Evoking camera apertures and the proscenium stage, these structures create sightlines between sections, amplifying tensions of motion, scale, and display, while inviting reflection on how identity is perceived and performed. The bespoke mannequin heads designed by Tanda Francis are modeled after the first sapeur, André Matsuang. Additionally, artist and dandy Ike Ude also served as special consultant for the show. Next, I'd like to show you the disguise section, which highlights fashion and dress as a means of disguise and revelation of identity. This is the story of William and Ellen Craft, an enslaved couple who, through an elaborate sartorial masquerade, employed dandyism to run 1,000 miles for freedom, which is the title of their 1860 memoir. Donning a well-made suit and top hat, Ellen passed as white, male, upper class, and free, with William pretending to be her loyal Black male servant. Ellen was a seamstress and could modify the clothing that they would use on their journey. William saved money to buy a white beaver hat like this one on the second-hand market, which nearly endangered their flight when a white observer criticized its luxuriousness, wondering how an enslaver would ever allow a servant to wear such a high-quality accessory. Dandyism, as a form of disguise, challenges our understanding of how appearance relates to identity markers like race, class, gender, and sexuality. In two ensembles that recognize the complexities of clothing and embodiment, Ib Kamara's Spring-Summer 2023 collection for Off-White shows how dress can reveal and conceal gender. These body-stitched jackets, embroidered in contrasting white thread, depict the anatomy and musculature of a man's chest and abdomen. Its complementary jacket portrays a woman's anatomy. Superfine focuses primarily on Black men because they were most visible in the historical record, and traditionally, the term dandy has been used in reference to men. But the disguise section is just one of the places where we explore women in dandyism, or female masculinity. This is one of several instances in the show where we illustrate the evolution of this concept over time. Wearing a bespoke suit marks a particular form of arrival and ambition. In the Respectability section, tailored suits show how dress and grooming function as tools of power, distinction, and dignity. Abolitionists and early racemen like Frederick Douglass, the most photographed man in the 19th century, wore well-tailored suits designed to express their status as free and self-determining. Here we see Frederick Douglass's tailcoat, monogrammed shirt, and vest, along with accessories like his top hat, sunglasses, and this pocket watch, which was his first watch, and really important to him because it was a symbol of the fact that as a free man, he was able to control his own time. Given the ways that Black people were being depicted in the 19th century, Frederick Douglass's elegant appearance was as important as his righteous rhetoric. Tailoring traditions were often passed down within families in the African diaspora. Since the late 19th century, students could also learn these techniques as part of their education at historically Black colleges and universities, like Hampton University. Black tailors from Harlem to London's Savile Row became important style influencers, shaping fashion in both Black communities and exclusive spaces. Modern designers and master tailors like Jeffrey Banks and Savile Row's Andrew Ramroop continue to demonstrate that the impeccable, well-made suit endures as a form of pride and protection. This suit, Andre Leon Talley's favorite, was made by Madison Avenue master tailor Morty Sims and is in the Costume Institute's collection. Contemporary garments in this section reflect this history of tailoring and the influence of HBCUs and collegiate style on contemporary fashion. James Jeter, creative director of Ralph Lauren's Polo brand and a proud Morehouse graduate, recently created a capsule collection inspired by mid-century collegiate suits and sportswear. In the champion section, we explore how athletic success has offered Black men a path to distinction, with bold, elegant clothing becoming a key part of sports entertainment. In the early 19th century, Black jockeys were at the center of horse racing in America. As enslaved labor, they often wore jockey silks that matched the livery of their enslavers. Black jockeys won the majority of Kentucky Derbies until they were pushed out of the sport in the early 20th century. Jockeys often celebrated their success sartorially, dressing up in the finest fashions of the day. These jockey silks and buckskin breeches were made by enslaved labor for an equestrian and owner of a plantation in South Carolina. The jacket is of extraordinary craftsmanship, as it is not made of striped fabric, but pieced together. The green ribbons are precisely sewn on to the red satin. Contemporary Black designers respond to the relationship between sports and style in multiple ways. Some, like Tremaine Emery of Denim Tears, issue capsule collections celebrating the great Black jockeys, bringing their forgotten history back to life. Others, like Saul Nash and Toi Paradis, elevate sportswear and athletic silhouettes, responding to the unique relationship between sports and fashion by creating garments that incorporate sportswear or athletic equipment. These garments cover the body as well as reveal and revel in its muscular contours. Black athletes continue to be trendsetters, as seen so often in the NBA tunnel walk. The beauty section, inspired by Nikki Giovanni's 1968 poem, Beautiful Black Men, honors the pride, bold self-possession, and sheer fabulous style of Black men. During and after the civil rights and Black power movements, as well as the sexual revolution and gay and lesbian rights movement, Black men converted their social invisibility into a form of radiance that relied on their pride and panache. This shift emphasized Black dandyism as a mode of dress that spans the spectrum of gender, sometimes quietly, sometimes aggressively, becoming a powerful and transgressive form of self-expression. This graphic black and white jacket, overlaid with sequins, was worn by the singer Sylvester in the 1980s and designed by Pat Campano. And here we see Prince's Purple Rain-era ruffled shirt. When used as a garment rather than trim or embellishment, white lace affords a sensual perspective on embodiment, connoting regality, innocence, and purity. Marvin Desrock and Kenneth Nicholson hope that their ensembles, featuring white lace, convey romance and melancholy, empathy and nostalgia, respectively. The bright, vibrant color and shine of ensembles by Kirby Jean Raymond for Pierre Moss and Edwin Thompson complete this section. Jean Raymond and Thompson are both inspired by music. The Pierre Moss ensembles pay homage to Sister Rosetta Tharpe, an unacknowledged originator of rock and roll, while the Jamaican dancehall scene, which emphasizes the body and percussive rhythm, inspired Thompson's designs. On the African continent and in the diaspora, Black dandyism has a long history of hybridizing Western tailoring and traditional forms of African dress. In heritage, we see designers of African descent using fashion to tell personal stories and explore familial lineages. Since the 1960s, people in the African diaspora have worn clothing with African silhouettes, motifs, and themes as a point of pride and connection. Just like in this photograph of W.E.B. Du Bois wearing a Ghanaian kente cloth expertly draped over a Western suit. This photograph was taken in 1959, a year before he moved permanently to Ghana. There are ancestor figures throughout the exhibition, such as designer and multi-hyphenate Virgil Abloh and fashion icon Andre Leon Talley. This regal custom kaftan made for Talley by Nigerian designer Patience Torlaway shows his interest in displaying his African heritage. Jacques Agbobli's hand-beaded denim jacket and trousers with pendant crystals evoke the earrings their aunts wore to Sunday church services. Their Togolese heritage and non-binary gender identity is manifested in many of their designs. Contemporary designers and wearers of African descent take inspiration from the traditional drapery of African textiles, the use of highly colored and patterned fabrics, and typical silhouettes. In so doing, they honor people in the diaspora who have found liberation and transcendence through fashion, style, and dress. Superfine takes its title from the memoir of Alado Equiano, a formerly enslaved man from the 18th century who was able to purchase his freedom. When he had assembled nearly all of the money needed, he said, "I laid out above 8 pounds of my money for a suit of superfine clothes." Having bought his freedom and wearing his suit, Equiano recounts, "At the dances I gave, my Georgia superfine blue clothes made no indifferent appearance, I thought." When Equiano danced in his new superfine suit, he broadcast the importance and profundity of the joy of self-possession and agency. Although he knew the word superfine in relationship to the quality of a fabric, over 250 years later, we also understand it as a particular mood and attitude associated with feeling especially good, fantastic even, in one's own body and in clothes that profoundly express the self. This feeling is often so evident that it is instantly recognized by others who will announce, with admiration and enthusiasm, on seeing you in that suit, with that hat, as you strut, that you are superfine. Join us and discover the power of fashion for yourself.